And it started. So welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Maura Canavan, and I'm with the Community Health and Wellness Department at Suburban Hospital. Today we are here to discuss advocating for yourself as the patient with Margie Hackett, Manager of Transition Care at Suburban Hospital. We will have time for questions at the end, but please feel free to ask your question in the Q&A box as they arise throughout the presentation. And after the webinar, you'll be sent an evaluation, so please fill it out so that we can continue to deliver high quality programming. So thank you all, and I will now pass it on to Ms. Margie Hackett.
Hi, thank you for having me, Maura, and everybody. It's nice to have you here. Thanks for joining. This is a great topic. I think it's something we all should learn to do, and if we're not good at it, we'll get better with time and with practice. Depending, I do have a lot to say. Sorry if anybody knows me, I tend to talk a lot, so I want to make sure that if you have a question that's pertinent to the slide, maybe give a message to Maura if you want to add something or whatever, but I might come to find out that we need to move forward so I get through everything, but we'll work it out, whatever works for you guys. So just a little bit about Suburban. I know you know it because you're on these WellWorks classes as well, but we're a 228 bed hospital. We're relatively medium-sized hospital in the Hopkins world. There's 6 hospitals, 1 in Florida for all children's, and then we have 1 in DC, Sibley, and 4 in Maryland. We're probably one of the smallest ones out of 6 of those hospitals. And Sibley might be a little bit smaller than us. And our average age is about 82. We are very highly Medicare patient as well, Medicare heavy. About 54% are Medicare and 11% are Medicare Advantage, and then the rest are commercial insurances. And you can see the different things we've done and the different service lines we have. So to jump right into advocacy, you start with a definition. It really is being able to be informed and speaking up and asking questions so that you will be able to make good decisions for yourself or for other people. That's the biggest thing about it. It's just knowing you can't advocate, you can't assist somebody if you don't have a little understanding of it. And there's some skills that come with them: communication, collaboration, presentation, and maintaining a professional relationship. I think it also includes being kind and understanding of what that side might be going through or managing or trying to explain to you. And when I think of collaboration, I think of compromising, understanding pieces of that side, and then trying to figure out how is it going to work for me, because sometimes we can't have everything the way we want it, and sometimes we can, but we can't always assume it's like that, and it's kind of hard to collaborate with somebody if they always want what they want, and it's hard for me to want what I want and not try to listen to what somebody else wants on the other side. So it's definitely a give and take. Okay. I have a few videos, so here's one video. Let me see if it comes through right from here. Found some things that were very interesting. Here we go. Sorry about that. And actually, let me know, can you guys hear it? I don't know. Maura, did you hear the audio when it came on?
Yes, I did hear some audio, but we're still seeing the slide.
Okay, so let me stop sharing. Hang on. Thank you for that. So when I do the screen share, let me go to here. This one will work better. Okay, so now you can see the slide. I'm sorry, it's playing this little video, the little entrance way. 1 second left. Okay. Is the sound okay, guys?
No, it's a bit difficult to hear.
Okay, hang on a second. That's because I didn't share it correctly. Hang on. I need to share. I'm so sorry, guys. There's always a little snafu with trying to do. Here we go. Share sound. That's the button I didn't click last time. Okay. All righty. Now, give me a heads up more if this is good.
So, please
Perfect.
welcome Abby Edwards and her dog, Kathy, with a K, to the stage.
We're just going to a little bit about this, guys, not the whole thing. Oh, sorry. It takes a while to get her on stage.
All right. So how is everybody? We're more than halfway through. How are we feeling? You still excited to be here? Yeah! Well, I'm still excited to be here because my name, as Sam very eloquently said, is Abby Edwards, and I am here today to share with you the impact that self-advocacy can have on your life. Now, when most people think of self-advocacy, they think that it's just a way to get something done. When I thought of self-advocacy, I envisioned something dramatic, like a petition, like someone in Washington. I didn't know that self-advocacy could be as simple as sending an email. It wasn't until I was asked to speak about it that I realized what self-advocacy really is, a choice to take control of your life. Now that's all well and good. If it's so simple, why haven't we all done it? Maybe it's because we don't feel like it's our choice to make. We live in a world that is constantly changing. New technology and trends come out all the time, and it can give us the impression that we don't really have a say in what goes on in the world around us. I can personally relate to feeling out of control. Around 4.5 years ago, I was at a point in my life where I felt like I had no say over what happened to me. At this point, I had just lost the remainder of my vision, had just had major back surgery, and was going through a second round of IV treatment for osteoporosis. This was a time in my life where I felt like everything had been taken out of my hands. Just before my freshman year of high school, I started exploring the role that technology could have in my life.
Hi. So I just wanted to get a little snippet of that because I thought that was very powerful message, and that she learned to be an advocate for herself. Hang on, let me go back to the slides. Sorry about this craziness. And go back here. That's what I need to do. All right, so we're gonna okay. Second. Got the slides here somewhere. There. One computer screen today, and I do not know why that's the way it's going. Okay, go back to our next slide. There. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I did practice, trust me. Okay. And from current slide. So now, can you guys see the slides? Types of health advocates?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So who can be considered an advocate? I mean, really, it's anybody who's willing to speak up for somebody else. And you know what? As a self-advocate, you're an advocate. So these are some examples I saw online. I wanted you to see it. An advocate has a variety of roles in your life. What do advocates usually do? All right, so they can help prepare for appointments, take notes and ask questions during appointments, adhere to prescription routines, give you reminders if you forget things, or help you come up with reminders so you can remind yourself. Addressing insurance issues if that's something that's a challenge, and any other thing going on in your life, advocating. And it doesn't necessarily have to be advocate about health. So there's definitely options for how to advocate for people. I know I got another video clip really soon. Sorry about this craziness, but I think this one's very powerful too. She's got some interesting stories to share with you all. So let me do the stop share here. Sorry, I think it's my two screen things that's making this a problem for me. The one screen, I should say. Here we go. All right, we're going to go back here and share sound. Here we go. This one's about the same length of time.
That I want to share with you today. The first one is about a woman named Tony. Now, Tony is a film producer and a world traveler. She speaks eloquently, but she says she's a slow reader. A few decades ago, when Tony was about 30, she went to her gynecologist because something just wasn't feeling right. She went there, she explains everything to him, and he says, "Oh yeah, I can fix that." "Great," she says. So a few weeks later, she comes back to have a surgical procedure. And as soon as she gets there, she is given a stack of forms to fill out, which is an experience I'm sure many of us have had. She immediately feels overwhelmed, like she doesn't have time to read them. And besides, the words on the pages don't make sense to her anyway. So she just signs them. She has the procedure. On life goes. A few weeks later, she comes back for a follow-up appointment, and as the nurse is checking her in, she says to Tony, "How are you feeling since your hysterectomy?" And that's when Tony realized that the procedure she had undergone had removed one of her organs. She hadn't asked the right questions, and she just trusted her doctor to make the best decision for her. "How had I allowed someone to take part of my body," she says, "and I didn't even know it?" Then there's the story of Leah Lee.
We're going to jump to the next story. Hang on. This is the third story.
A few months ago, I went to my doctor for a routine appointment. And as I was walking through the door, the medical assistant told me I had to take a lab test. I didn't ask what it was for. To this day, I don't really know what it was for. But I did it anyway, because it just seemed easier to go along with it than to ask many questions. You know how you feel rushed when you go to the doctor's office? Even though you're the patient, it's supposed to be about you and your health. They're speaking a foreign language and you're intimidated, and it just seems easier to go along with things than to ask questions. But sometimes it costs you. A few weeks after my appointment, I received a $2,000 bill in the mail for that lab test because my health insurance company decided it was not medically necessary for my care. I had to fight that bill for months. Now, I am a healthcare communicator. I am getting my master's degree in this very field. This is not supposed to happen to me, but it did. As I was fighting this bill, I just kept asking myself, why didn't I just ask what it was for? Why didn't I advocate for myself?
Okay. Great question. Why didn't I advocate for myself? All righty. So tell me, can you see the slide, Advocate for Your Health, the slide?
No, we cannot.
Okay, sorry, we're going to go back. We're going to go back and share that slide. Okay. All righty. Now? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Maura. Okay. So, all right, now we need to get the slides to advance. Oh, there we go. So the next slide. Yes. Okay. All right. So we're on target. So, I think those are pretty powerful messages. When I think about Abby, you know, she was young. She's a young girl, had this health concern, lost her vision. You know, I hope to think of something like that happen to me, that I would be able to be as strong as she has been. And maybe she wasn't always so strong, but she knew she needed to take control. So for her, advocacy was taking control, having control wherever you can, because there's so many things out of our control in our life. And in the other two stories from the second woman, I'm sorry, I forgot her name. I don't know her name, Molly. From Molly, it's pretty powerful to have somebody sign papers, and they had agreed to a procedure and had a surgery that they didn't really understand. I've heard that story in different ways in other times, so it's not the same story for me, but it sounds awfully scary. And those are the situations we in healthcare try to avoid, to really make sure that somebody understands what is being said to them. I think there's a piece of trusting our providers that they're recommending the best thing for us, but we still need to understand what that best thing in their mind is, and we need to make an educated decision. Molly's the third story, because I skipped the second one just a little bit longer. The third story that we heard, second story we heard was about her own. She's a professional, understands about communication, is learning about healthcare communication, and she had a medical procedure, blood test result. It's a simple thing, is what's this about? Well, my doctor didn't tell me about it, so let me just ask him real quick, right? That's all that would have taken. And she would have saved herself a lot of time, money worries, but then time of trying to fix it. We didn't learn if she fixed it or not, but oh my gosh, that's just nuts. It's just so, can go so far. So steps for effective advocacy, I want to outline here. Don't assume things, ask. You can ask nicely. People might think that, well, I don't want to bother anybody, but it's your body, it's you. I want you to be comfortable asking. Don't assume that it makes sense to you. Don't assume that they think that they might be assuming that and don't assume that you know what it is. So no problem to ask a question. Check your emotions. You want to be kind about it. You want to be understanding that they might be busy. So pause and say, I'd like to ask you a question. Is this a good time? But don't have them continue to move about you until you get your question answered. Make sure you're clear in what you're asking them. Asking whoever, whether it's your doctor, the nurse, the librarian, you want to ask your question. Collaborate and listen. Collaborate again. That's like compromising of sorts, understanding the other side. Give and take. I'm not saying give and take in terms of you're going to let them take your uterus out of you, and that's a collaboration. No, it's understanding. They need to give you some information, and then you need to share how you're feeling about it and what your understanding is. And take notes. We can't remember everything going on in our minds. We don't. We might not have any memory problems. Everybody's always worried about, when you start losing your memory. Not everybody loses their memory. Most of it's because we're so busy and so wrapped up in things. We can't keep all of these details in our head. And so notes are, honestly, I live on notes. You should see all the notes on my desk right now. I don't think I would do anything well without my notes. Hang on, let me see what is the word under here. Oh, communication. Organized set of communication tactics. So you're organizing yourself, you're educating yourself, and we're going to get into that a little bit later on the slides. Always listen and learn. Listen to what the provider might say. Try to understand what he says. Maybe do some research. Always ask questions. Focus on the long-term goals. It's important to know what the short-term role is, short-term situation is. Let's say that woman knew about her hysterectomy and understood it and agreed that it was an issue, but you need to then understand how am I going to manage? What is this going to look like in my life afterwards? Is that going to change the way I feel? Is it going to change, what does that mean not having it? I know it's going to affect my hormones, but she might not know that part. So really need to make sure that you try to have somebody help you with understanding short-term goals and long-term goals. And a deliberate focus means you just really want to know, how is this going to be managed? Is there something that has a concern of management? Value the support from others. When people ask you if they can help you, or it could be a family, a friend, a neighbor. It could be, the nurse, the case manager in the office. It could be a lot of different people in the or at your workplace. If they want to offer some help and you need some support from them in any way, to listen to you or to maybe do a little bit of research for you and bring it back, whatever. Most of the time, they're very willing to do that, and it's really okay to tell them, this is a really great way to help me. I would really appreciate you. Maybe if you could check this out for me, because I haven't had a chance to do it and I really want to look at it, look up to it. And being open to different ways to communicate. And what I mean by that is, some doctors you want to call. You like phone calls, and you want to call and you want to talk to them on the phone. That might work for some of your physicians. It might not work for all of them. And so while you like the phone the best, they might like email the best. I'm going to, use an example of a lot of doctors' offices are using electronic health records, as you know, and they all are trying to have us access portals now to go in and we can see our own information. It's a law actually now, that a federal law, that we as patients are able to see our information. And so they're all being compliant with that, and to see your information is perfectly within your right. And the best way for them to do that is to have it on an electronic software platform that we need to have our own personal individualized access to, which is the portal. And I like the portals. Most of them I like because I like being able to get right in. I like having my password shared and ready, not shared, but saved and ready to go, so I don't have to remember it each time. And I like being able to send a quick message to my doctor in that portal. And some doctors are better than others at replying. Some doctors have their nurses scan through it. Every practice is going to be a little bit different, but I personally like those portals, but some of them I don't like because they're clunky. I have to remember my password every time. I can't find what I'm looking for in there. So they're not all perfect, but I think they're getting better. So being open, if that is not the best way for you to communicate, talk to your provider. Can I do phone calls for you? Or if I send you a message, can you call me back? So that at least he or she has a chance to review it and know what the conversation's about, and that could make it a little shorter for them. So explore that. Talk to your physicians. There's been some practices I've told them, I'm not going to use your portal. I'm going to have to call. I don't know what I'm having trouble with, and they've done that for me. So just talk it up. Ask questions. Again, don't assume. Okay. I want to tell you about a little story. So this is somebody in my life that is going through a lot right now, and I thought her story might be interesting for you to hear. So her name is Sally. Sally started way back before I thought. I asked her about being a self-advocate, and she's like, oh, well, where do I start? I said, well, start wherever you want. She started with when she was in her 20s, maybe 30s, and needed to assist her parents. Both of her parents became ill. And I didn't expect her to go back that far, but it was a great start of her story, because she said that she learned how to be an advocate for them through, being thrown into it. She became more confident as she learned more about their health needs, about how they were going to care for themselves at home. If they needed rehab, what did that mean? She learned a lot. And so that she was educating herself at all times through books and magazines. And this was before online, so this was a long time ago. And then as internet became a big deal and you could research things in that way, she was researching online. And she knows that she was a big proponent in her parents' life and health at that time, and how important it was that she was a part of that. And she shared also everything she learned with her siblings. So recently she learned of a change in her own health, and she used her skills that she'd learned with her parents. She used these skills to advocate for herself. As her illness converted to from a short-term to a long-term chronic illness, this is recent. She just learned maybe 2 months ago that now she has a chronic illness. She has learned even more and continues to advocate for herself. And she's very effective at it. A couple of things she noticed about some things is she didn't realize an issue between community physicians and academic physicians, meaning that one of the struggles she had with her illness was she'd been seeing a community physician for her treatment and was doing okay, but she didn't improve as expected or as her doctor expected. And she wasn't getting the assistance from the office as much. And she started looking around, asking other people what was going on. She asked me, and she asked other people she knew in the healthcare field, and she got connected with some other physicians. Apparently, she didn't realize that it's okay to go shop around for doctors, and that's not in a mean way. Is this doctor that I currently have actually up on the know of the newest stuff, right? And it was okay to go to an academic center where you have a different team. She needed that extra case management support for her chronic illness, her new chronic illness. And it's definitely okay to investigate, meet with other physicians, and obtain other opinions. She mentioned as some key points that speaking with others, asking these questions, asking questions, learning from them, and not in a complaining way, but in an informative way. She learned about many other physicians who could help her with her situations. And the other thing she mentioned is, talking with friends, just, probably not in a big group necessarily, but she'd say, yeah, I'm going through this, or I'm having this situation. All of these different suggestions came to her, trying another doctor, or, I know somebody who had this, and maybe that will help you. I mean, it didn't send her in a tailspin. It didn't send her in a big direction of, oh gosh, I want this, because not everything that works for one person will work for another person. Everybody has their own unique story. Everybody has their own medical history, or the medicines they're on, or, their lifestyle that will make a treatment not work for somebody. But she and I both agree that talking things over with your friends, or talking things over with spouse, not keeping it too quiet. Some people are very private about their health, and that's understandable. But to some people that you trust, you will get some other ideas, and that has taken her. Those other ideas, those conversations with friends, took her to another physician who is now, she's hopefully going to be getting better in this situation. I think she's always going to have the chronic illness, but she's has some more hope and some better outlook for her future. So I think that's a great story. And happy to have questions about that if you need to ask me any. Let's see. I have more slides. So I've gone through some of this, but I wanted to give you some more details. So educating yourself, and I'm going to go through some slides on that next. What is the particular situation? All right. Doctor says you have low thyroid. All right. What does that mean? Okay. What is the thyroid important for? How does it affect your body? Because the thyroid does more than just, related to that organ. It actually has functions throughout your body. And so learning about that, all right, educating yourself. You want to take what you've learned to the doctor and then have him answer your questions or discuss it with you. Because when we learn and research, it's a generic sort of research. It's not always going to go into the details of and your particular situations. So educating yourself is important, and then asking those questions and really talking over the doctor. Don't go by just what you've educated, but don't go just by your research. Prepare for your medical appointments. Again, this is huge. Get there on time, or early is better. Because if they're running ahead of time, you want to be able to capture them. Be prepared in case they're running a little bit late. I try to make my appointments, if possible, either first one after lunch or first one in the morning, so I don't have to wait as much, but whatever works for you or the office. We have to sometimes do what needs to be done. But write out any questions you had, or bring in that article that you read, because that will jumpstart the conversation without you having to remember too much. And you don't want to forget what you wanted to ask, for sure. Check off any questions you wrote down on your list, or maybe put your questions in like bullet lines, one-line things, or with bullets, so you can do a little check mark and go to the next space. Sentences, I think, sometimes take a little longer to read out to the physician or the provider. And when I say provider, I would mean physician assistant, nurse practitioner, or doctor. Let me think here. One thing about having the questions written out and checking them off during the conversation is you're going to help keep the meeting on time, the appointment on time, so that the doctor doesn't feel rushed because he's got to get out to the other appointment, and you don't feel rushed that you've missed something. And so that will definitely help the conversation you'll be in charge of it versus the physician rushing you. And I know physicians don't want to rush you, but it does seem to happen sometimes. The other thing about writing out questions was, I'm sorry, it'll come back to me. I know what it was. Maybe you want to ask for a doctor's appointment. If you have a lot of questions, maybe you want to ask for a 30-minute appointment. Usually the appointments are set up in 15-minute increments, and maybe you need to see if you can get a 30-minute. Maybe not always possible in the time frame that you want, but it's certainly worth asking. Okay, I know some physicians will set up 30-minute appointments, usually as their first one after lunch, so that they can spend more time with some people. Tap into your talents. What did you do as a professional? What did you do as a mom or a dad? We had to keep those kids wrangled, right? How do we keep them focused? So my friend Sally mentioned that this is also something that she tapped into her skills when she was working. She's currently retired, but when she was working, she led many meetings. She was a project manager. She, chaired things. She kept people going along on projects, and she tapped into those talents for herself to be her own self-advocate. Again, here, take advantage of all types of available communication options. You're probably going to see that again, because I think that is very key. It's going to be tough sometimes to learn something new, but I would be open to learning and open to trying, and get other people, enlist your children, your spouses, your, parents. I'm not certain who's on the call, but, enlist whoever you trust in your life to help you learn those other options. And be confident and kind, confident that you need the help, you need to be having a good conversation, and you're asking very nicely for some information. So those things go a long way. I want to talk a little bit about health literacy, and this ties back into Molly's first story about the woman who signed all the documents. She said she was she said she was a slow reader, but didn't always understand everything. So that's what I would label her as being not health literate. Health literate is understanding medical terminology, medical phrases that relate to a person. And if you're fully understanding, that would be the literacy, right? Being literate. Health, not understanding the full medical way of understanding the word. So those documents, and actually I'm probably health illiterate when it comes to legal forms. I just glaze over. I'm really terrible about looking at legal forms, but I'm better about health forms. But even to me, health forms have a lot of gobbledygook in there that are very hard to follow. So not everybody's perfect at this, but we worry about health literacy a lot in healthcare because we want to make sure that a person understands what's happening. I'm going to use an example here about about language. So a lot of people in the United States don't speak English. That's okay, right? We're going to give them the best care we can in the hospital. We're going to help them as much as we can in the grocery store, and wherever they are, right? I mean, we want them to, get what they need to have because everybody has the same needs. So, or different needs that are individualized. In healthcare, we really want to make sure you understand it. And so we are going to get a translator, an interpreter, so that we can explain things to you in English that is interpreted and translated to your preferred language, and you can respond in your preferred language, and then it gets translated and interpreted back to me, okay? So it takes a little longer to have the conversation, but that's the only way that we know that person understands. And, sometimes family members might want to be the translator for their family, for their loved one, and we don't really want to have that happen because we want to make sure that the patient is actually getting the information that is needed. Some family members are being protective of their loved ones, and so they don't always want to share those tough decisions, those tough conversations. And what's that doing is that person is really, they might be making a decision without having all the information, and that's, to me, is so scary. Like the woman who filled out that paperwork for the surgery procedure. So health literacy, prescription to end confusion. We really want everybody to understand. We want them to have the capacity to obtain, process, and understand basic health information and the services needed to make appropriate health decisions. They have to be able to navigate the healthcare system, including filling out complex forms, how to get a provider, sharing information, health history with providers, engaging in self-care and chronic disease self-management. I should add that word in there, self-management. Think about this for a second. You guys might be having trouble filling out forms right now. Navigating insurance is huge right now. You have to understand what that paper is that comes in the mail. Oh my gosh, I have this big bill, but it doesn't make sense to you. So is it something you can just set aside and wait for the bill to arrive and investigate it? Or is it not so bad and you're misreading one of the lines in the document? Those estimation of benefits, EOBs, a lot of the insurance companies send those out. So, we all have our issues, and I always have to read and reread and double check. Do I understand this? I'll get my husband to look at it. Am I understanding this right? I do that with legal forms. I also do that with some insurance forms to make sure that we're not missing something, right? So this is not a new thing, and this is not something that only some people have a problem with. We all have a little bit of health literacy problems, and again, we go back to the beginning. Ask questions, speak up. Let me see what my next slide is. I always say to people about that medicine is its own language. You might speak English, but if you don't have any medical background at all, it's its own language. And then if you have medical background and the person the doctor is talking about in some health issue is with me, I want a second person there because I start to think about what are they telling me and how am I going to get my life? How am I going to get out to get my child after work? How am I going to, live in a year? What is this like? So, we get our emotions are wrapped up in it. So we really need another person to listen to ourselves. And I have another example here before I go to the next slide. Sometimes in the hospital, a patient may need to, go somewhere for a rehab, and there's several different types of rehab. They might need to, have home health services, whatever. And so if a person is being told by the physician, these are recommended services for you, I'm going to put in an order for you, a referral order for you to get these services, and somebody will set them up. And then the social worker, case manager, nurse comes in to, talk about the referral process and talk about what is being requested by the physician. And a patient just might say, no, I don't want it. No. And, if we don't ask why, we were doing them a disservice, because saying no, do they understand what we're offering? Do they understand that their insurance might cover? Do they understand that maybe they don't have insurance and they're worried about money, but maybe there's charity available, charity services being paid for by the hospital per se, or maybe by even the organization might have their own charity offering. So, just saying no is so scary. We need to ask those why questions to make sure that they truly understand what they're saying no to. Okay, I got another clip. We're just going to go to stop share so I don't go through the crazy shenanigans I did before. And let me open up this one a second here. All right, now this is a slide. This is a bit older. It is from 2010, but I just think it's so powerful. I don't want you to miss it. Am I doing on time? I'm okay on time. Yes, Maura, am I okay?
Yep, you're good on time.
All righty, so let me share this screen.
I was sick a lot. I was sick a lot because I probably missed dosage and didn't realize it. I was in the hospital a lot. When they did give me medicine, I didn't take it right. I admit to it. I just didn't understand them, and I didn't have the nerve to ask them the right way of doing it. I just didn't have the nerve to ask them, and I didn't want anyone to know I couldn't read.
We had a child that was physically handicapped that I had to do physical therapy on. I would show up on Tuesdays instead of Thursdays for the appointment. I would be exercising the wrong side of the body.
I had an abscess in a ear one time. Well, I had to fill out forms and I couldn't fill out, so I didn't go. I come back home. I ended up having to go to the emergency room that night because it burst.
Health literacy is the ability to read, understand, and act on medical information. Unfortunately, millions of adult Americans lack adequate health literacy skills. The doctors, researchers, and patients in this video are real, not actors. The situations, frustrations, and complications are also real. Nearly half of Americans have health literacy challenges. Odds are some of them are your patients.
Can you imagine what it's like you being a patient and sick, and you know that you have limited skills, okay? And you're talking to an intelligent doctor like yourselves. And these people are using words that you really don't know because they're not speaking in layman's term, okay?
Right.
Most doctors are just presuming that everybody's intelligent as they are, and that is just not the case. So what you do, you come out of that room, that examination room, with this intelligent woman or man, thinking, God, I hope I don't make a mistake with my medicine, because I did not understand anything he or she said to me.
The heart of the problem is a disconnect between patient ability and healthcare communication. The average American reads at an 8th grade level, but healthcare information is often communicated at a college graduate level. This disconnect leads to confusion, frustration, and a feeling of helplessness for patients and physicians. While healthcare information can confuse even highly educated patients, those most vulnerable to misunderstanding are the 1 in 5 adult Americans who are functionally illiterate.
Take one capsule.
That's right, one capsule.
One capsule. I don't know what this is. Twice daily.
Okay.
Okay.
So how would you take this?
When I see it's not on, I tell you how to take it. It say take it twice daily, but it don't say what time to take it.
For people with limited literacy skills, the world can be a challenging one. 21% of adult Americans can't read the front page of a newspaper. 48% can't decipher a bus schedule or make sense of a bar graph. The problem is even worse in the healthcare setting, where emotions run high and vocabulary is unfamiliar.
Based on our decade of research on health literacy.
So this is old data, so it's 2010, but I don't know if it's worse or better. I would imagine it's worse. Let me get back to the slides. Okay, so wait a second. Can you see the slides again or no?
No, not yet.
Okay, sorry. Let's stop and start over. Okay. But that's a pretty powerful message here. Oh, goodness. Hang on. Okay, let's go back. Share the screen. I always wonder how people do it so perfectly. Go between video clips. All right, we're going to go to this slide and from current slide. All righty. Right one? Yeah. Okay, great. Now we're back on target. So it's pretty scary. And I went all the way to watch that man with the medications. It seems as simple as that. One pill twice a day, but that means different things to different people. The health field, world now, the medical world is trying to make sure that we're very specific with what we're writing. I know at Hopkins, I've been working here for a long time. I know that I've seen changes and improvements in how we're wording that. Twice a day means something different to different people. I have a team of nurses who are calling patients after the hospital stay. And one of the biggest things they do is they talk through that. You take this twice a day. What are those times? Twice a day means breakfast and dinner to some people. It means breakfast and bedtime for some people. It means breakfast and lunch, breakfast and midday, or lunch and dinner, right? So is it important that this one is 12 hours apart? Is it important that it's, taken exactly at the same time every day? Can it change if they sleep in? If somebody always takes their meds at 6 a.m. and they sleep till 10 one day, or do they skip that dose? All of that stuff is hard for people to understand. And so, now you might be thinking what you're doing with your medicines. Always good to review it. So if the prescription says twice a day, I would review it. I always take my meds at this time in the morning, and I always take my second meds at this time. And then sometimes I have something I have to take at bedtime, whatever it is. I like to have my medicine list be the list of meds and how I'm recommended to take them, and then what time of the day I'm taking them and what medicines I'm taking at the same time, because sometimes some meds should not be taken at the same time. Anyways, or difference with your meals. It's a little crazy, but there's so many variations to this. Anyways, best practices. Invite somebody or a close friend, a spouse, someone to be a second set of eyes and ears to take notes and help with reminders to medical appointments. I do it. I definitely do it. Really important if you're not familiar with medical terminology, really important if it's brand new, and there's some emotions in there that you're concerned about, what you were just told. And if you're familiar with medical terminology and or work in the medical field, I would still have somebody go with you, because you might be not able to concentrate. You want good news, and that's all good and fine, but even getting good news, you might not remember or realize the messages you were just told, because good news still usually comes with having to add a medicine or eat this thing at this time, or I want to see you in 3 months. And you might have totally missed that. You want to see me in 3 months? I don't remember that, right? So I think it's important to have a second set of eyes and ears. If I can't get my husband there, I usually text him what I was told, so I can at least say that I've written it down and he's seen it that way. So 8 health literacy best practices. We've gone through some of this before: appointment reminders, follow-up phone calls, phone follow-up. Sometimes the hospital, the doctor's office might call you back, or you might just need to do a recheck and call them, or do one of those messages in the portal. I want to make sure I explain this to you, the number 3. I don't know if you've heard about teach back, but that's a medical terminology. When we're teaching people, patients, residents, families, when we're teaching them something that we need them to understand, that we want them to understand for the betterment of their own health and understanding, we want them to repeat it back to us. So we've taught you this. Now, what did I just say? That last nurse in the video, when the man was talking about reading his medication label, she's like, now you just read that. So how would you take that? So she's having him repeat back to her. And so she'll repeat it to him. She'll then say, well, this is what I want you to do. And then she'll ask him to tell her again, what was that he just said? Repeating things. And I do this with my kids, and I do this with myself. When I educate other people, I remember it better. Do that for my kids when it's, in school and don't understand something. I said, well, tell me what it is you understand. Tell me what you're doing. Teach me what you've just learned in school that you have a test on tomorrow. As they're trying to teach me, they're solidifying it in their head. And that's a good way to do it with your, the friends in the study group as well. And it's good to do, I think, at all parts of our lives, not just when we're in school. and repeating information back is so important. Treatment simplification. It is important to understand that, let's say you're going through chemo treatments, you've been diagnosed with some type of cancer and you need to have regular chemo treatments or radiation or whatever. Some people are okay with having a lot of details, and some people need it to be simplified. So it's important that you figure out what works best for you. Are you somebody who just wants the strict details and real simple details and make sure you're on time and you're going to do it, and I'm going to feel this way, okay, got it, or do you want to know all the potentials of all the side effects? And it's okay either way, whatever works for you, but you need to make sure that you're satisfied with what you like best. Shared decision making would be you being understanding, having full understanding of the situation and the health need, and speaking with your physician, trusting your physician that they're going to tell you the truth, that they're going to give what they recommend the best for you, or give you a couple choices that you can decide, but you're doing that decision making together. You're not doing it alone. You really do want to share it with your spouse, a significant other, and with your physician at the same time. Medication review is so important that you, I mentioned how I like my list a certain way, how the medicine's taken, what are you taking it for, and then I have it listed as to what time of the day do I take it and with what other meds. Using plain language, that really comes down to is not using big words, not using acronyms. I hope I haven't done that for you today. I try to avoid that, but if I have, I'm so sorry. Plain language, making it in layman's terms might be another way to phrase that. So something that is going to be very simple. There was another message in one of those clips about reading at, and this was the 10-year-old stat. 21% read at something third grade reading level. I'm sorry, I don't remember what it said now. And there are a lot of people who don't read at a high level of learning, high level of reading. So medical language has traditionally, I think, been at the 10th grade reading level. And there's a lot of effort to get it back down to like 6th grade, I think is where we're averaging it now, to the 6th grade reading level. And that's going to be in different sort of methods. There might be some practices that have all of their documentation and education in the 6th grade reading level. And some of it might be a mix, because, for older ones, but most properties, most organizations, medical practices are doing more education handouts in a lower reading level, because we really want everybody to understand. Being kind and having your staff being really supportive of you and understanding of what they're doing, so that you guys can be collaborative together. All right, I want to just real quick, I want to talk about how do you know when you're doing research online, how do you know if you have a reliable website? So I'm getting down to in the last 10 minutes and there might be some questions. This is some general advice on how to understand if you have a credible website. So real quick here, this one, generally .edu sites or .gov sites are credible. Beware of sites that use suffixes to mislead, so something different, all right? A lot of nonprofit websites are reliable, but you want to make sure that it's a nonprofit website that is meant to educate and not meant to just share their opinion. Websites are not necessarily the best ones to look at. I do personally like webmd.com, but I know I take it with a grain of salt. When I see something, I need to ask more questions, but I do like that one. And then I have a little thing here, what's credible sources versus not credible sources. You can see at the bottom of the page, when you go to the bottom of an internet page, it'll tell you when it was last updated. You want something that's recent, and medical stuff should be updated, pretty much every 3 to 6 months, I would think. Do they have up-to-date articles and that sort of thing in there for always showing old things? And, as a self-advocate, you want to research, you want to be trusting what you're looking at, you want to be educating yourself. And if you're educating yourself on opinion sites or things that are not necessarily going to give you the right information, it might lead you in a path that is not helpful for you or for your physician, because he's going to be guiding you one way and you might not trust who your physician is, and that's so important. It is okay to switch to physicians, there's no problem with that, but if you trust your physician, you want to continue to trust them. So you don't want to bring in information about opinions and that sort of thing, which it's tough. Also, what's recommended was to check your security connection on your website, on your internet, to make sure that it's giving you secure sites, not necessarily always just giving you whatever comes in. Be careful when you search on Google. Just because it's in the first page of your Google search doesn't mean it's the best sort of thing to look at, okay? Again, I put this on here. It's a repeat slide. All kinds of personal advocates out there, and I want you to, if you think about, if I'd have been with my mother and I'd had asked this question, you know, I think that would have made all the difference. So if you're thinking about how you might advocate for somebody else, use that same advice on you when you need to advocate for yourself. This is a repeat slide. Tap into your talents, prepare for medical appointments. I think this might be the last slide. Maura, we've got 8 minutes. I'm so sorry, guys. I talked a lot. Yeah, this is my last slide.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
That was a lot of great information. Yes, please, everyone. You're welcome to write your question in the Q&A box, and we are happy to discuss. I will start us off while people begin to type their questions. So you touched on this briefly, and you mentioned determining a website's reliability. But what other ways would you suggest educating yourself on health literacy?
So, medical journals, they're always coming out with new articles. And, if you do have trouble with health literacy, the medical journals might be too difficult to understand. But there probably will be some, I'm not certain, but there probably will be some medical journals that are on, making sure that we're educating and educating in the right way and at the right level of readability. But my medical journal is online. Online is like everything right now. But there's also books, pamphlets. There's a lot of doctor's offices that have some good pamphlets that are handy. You could even ask for some of them. You could call the office and say, I'd like to learn more about this, and I'm sure they could share something with you. The hospitals all have online learning about videos. We've got some video education things. We have some handouts. And what's good about the education stuff that all the hospitals are using, not just Hopkins, because we all have these wonderful things, Adventists and Holy Cross and MedStar is in Montgomery County. But those are the education things that we use, educational sites that we use are updated on a regular basis. So if I'm going to go into the record and pull out something, say on congestive heart failure, it's going to be a document that was updated recently and approved, and it's not going to be an old document. So there's the beauty of getting it from a health professional. There is, for example, there's a document I put online in our education thing. It's a document that I created with a group a few years ago, and I get asked every year to review it. Is it still accurate? Is it still reliable and notable? So even though it's a standard document and it's static and there's no research behind it other than a group put it together and we know how helpful it is, it still gets reviewed annually by myself and some other peers to make sure that we are still giving the right information. So I know all the health systems are doing that, which is super helpful. And something I didn't mention earlier, I'm sorry, Maura. Also, it's a good idea to know what kind of learner you are. So are you somebody who likes to read things and then you remember it? Maybe you like to do hands-on learning. Somebody needs to show you how to, say, change the oil. And, like somebody had to show me how to change the oil. I actually probably need to put my hands on it to know where it is, to find it so I can get the whole thing. I think I had to have my husband show me how to do it. So I like hands-on learning. Do you like to read things and you get it by reading? Maybe you like pictures. Maybe you're a combination of all of those things. So I think it's important to understand what kind of learner you are so you find the right education source for you.
Thank you, Margie. And we have two great questions in the chat.
Okay.
First, can you please elaborate on the difference between community physician and academic physician?
Sure. Okay, I'm going to use Hopkins as an example because I can use that the most. But we have community doctors down here in Montgomery County. All right. They're great practices. They work in the community. They work with a community hospital. We're not necessarily, we don't have teaching residents in our hospital. We don't have what's the word? You might not be up on all the newest research or the newest information that's out there by the studies and that sort of thing. You're probably doing what's recommended in the books, what you've done in the past, and what you've taught yourself. but you're not necessarily included in all of the new research that's out there. Let's say somebody has a new cancer, that's something new, and the treatment in the past has always been blank, right? You do these 8 treatments and they usually get well, and then it continues. And so what do you do now? A community doctor might not have all that background to really research to find out what's new and different out there. But an academic provider will be able to go, oh, well, we've done that. We've seen more of that. And we know that you've already had these treatments, the next step is this. And they know about it because they actually are doing active research for those people. So while I just said Suburban is not an academic hospital, we're not an academic hospital, we're a community hospital, but we do have the support of our academic colleagues in Baltimore. So we have a lot of academic benefits down at Suburban Hospital and at Sibley as well. So there's a little overlap in the hospital, but I know the doctors in the county, they're not all connected to the current up-to-date research or even the active live research. And that's what's so good about some people who have resistant situations.
Thank you. And then where can you find an advocate for someone that's in a different state or city?
So, okay, so you're somebody who needs to have an advocate. You wish that you were living there and could help more. Is that kind of the idea?
Right. Like if a family member, say, lives across the country, what's the best way to advocate for them or find an advocate for them?
Gotcha. So that's a really great question. So this is what I would recommend. It depends on what's involved. There is a way to advocate over the phone. It's a little tough, but there is a way to advocate over the phone. You'd have to get that person, your loved one, to make sure that they got you together, got you connected every time as much as possible. It might be a little bit too hard on that person. So if you do need help on site, I would recommend hiring a private case manager. They're all over the United States. They are amazing advocates for you on your behalf as the family who is too far away. And when I say case manager, it could be a nurse, a social worker, or another discipline, because what they can do is based on their discipline and their understanding, they're going to be able to pull all the information together, help you do research, get that person to a doctor's appointment, be that second set of eyes and ears, help them, guide them, advise them on medications if that's their role, help them determine when they might need extra help in the home, when they might need to be in the hospital. Private case managers are fabulous. It's actually my favorite job in the whole world, and I wish I was doing it because I really like that connection. They become a part of the family. They become truly trusted because they know you intimately, you being the patient, and they're not going to make decisions for you. They're going to make decisions with you, make sure that you understand and all of that, and they're going to make sure the family is in the loop all along the way. And to find a case manager, always worth checking online in that area. There's a lot of national organizations that have case management associated with them or as part of them, but there's also some smaller practices that if you were to say check with the Chamber of Commerce in another city or the local government, they probably are also advertising there, or not even really, they're not advertising. Usually it's word of mouth to find those people, but they will have some sort of advertisement for you to identify them and find them in another city.
Thank you. And we have one final question. Could you find an academic doctor at a community hospital? The example this person gave at Shady Grove Hospital. Can you find an academic doctor there or at Suburban?
I would probably say at Adventist. I don't think I consider them academic hospitals, but I could be wrong. I've never really thought about it in that way. I would say, if you have a doctor who's with the Adventist practice, I would ask them if they're connected with somebody who's active in research, and that would sort of put them in the academic framework. If you're at Suburban, and we will connect you automatically if we think it's beyond the control of what we have here at the hospital. But when you're in the community, let's say the community doctors that are not Hopkins, they might not think about an academic, research connected provider. If you go to Johns Hopkins Community Physicians, which is our practices of regular primary care in the county, and actually we have some all over the county and some other counties as well now, they will refer appropriately to an academic, but you can always ask about it as well. Did that help?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you Thank you so much, Margie, for taking the time to speak to everyone today. I think no matter where you are in your health journey, that's a lot of great advice that you shared with us today. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here and asking some great questions. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me, Maura. It's nice to see all of you. Take care.
Thank you.